This is Jablam Hockey with your hosts, Peter Wojcicki and Paul Swinbeck. Welcome to Jablam Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Wojcicki. You can find me on Twitter at Russian98. Wait, Paul, do you want me to change my Twitter handle?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I haven't tried recently, but I used to try a few times. And I don't know why. I struggle with things sometimes, especially I'm an old fart. So I will maybe try to change it for next season. All right, and I am with
Paul Zwambag. You can find me at Zwambag, ZWAMBAG. How's it going, everybody? Peter, throwing me a curveball. What's up?
No, you mentioned it recently, and I was thinking about it. And I've been wanting to change it and maybe do my last name kind of thing, make it more official. I think there is a Bajarnov already out there, and I think I've tweeted him 2 or 3 times. Oh, really? So you might have to steal it from him. Damn, never heard about this. You might need to put a 98 on the end of it still, like your Russian 98. But yeah I always go Bajarnov, and it messes me up on Twitter. 2 things. That reminds me of back in the day when I wanted to start doing a whole website thing. I've had Jablam in my head years ago, and I tried to do a Jablam Entertainment Sports website this is like my first or second year in university, and a guy had it, and we emailed him, and I think he responded, and he was very rude about it. It was such a weird conversation we had. So basically, in the end, we couldn't do it, and we ended up doing, I think, Jablam News or something. Anyways, but I did like Russian because when I played hockey and ball hockey and everything, people usually called me Russian instead of trying to actually say my last name or calling me out as Peter. But let's get into some hockey. How did we do in the first round picks, Paul?
We ended up tying, which is kind of bogus, but we both went 5-3. Mm-hmm. We had the Chicago-Nashville opposite, and Washington and my long shot Toronto Maple Leafs. Mm-hmm. Just couldn't figure out the overtime games and couldn't win. They were all close matches, but you ended up winning with Washington's pick. You're telling me.
If you haven't, go check out my recent blog. I'm calling it The Day After. Take it out, a little quick read of what I usually go through on the day after the Leafs are basically out of the playoffs. But check that out. I'm surprised you went for 2 crazy underdog picks, and you got one of them. Crazy upset of the Blackhawks, and we will talk more about that in this episode when we do our Team ISO and our guest Keith Schultz.
The only other series that we got wrong out of those 2 that we mismatched was Montreal we lost and Boston we lost. So
that really hurt our picks too. And I even told you I was on the fence of both teams, but I thought Montreal could score more goals, and it was the opposite. Rangers had the slight edge of those goals, but I think it was more Lundqvist was just amazingly good. So,
and it really hurt our brackets as well because our Atlantic bracket is completely busted. So it's not looking good for us.
And I was even on the fence. Even you mentioned it in our preview episode. I talked about it even earlier that you were saying, "Oh, maybe it's a good thing to go with 2 powerhouse teams in the same bracket." And I was even thinking about doing maybe both Penguins and Capitals, and then you didn't do it because you picked the day before me. And I'm like, this guy's being a sneaky, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do it either then. But I was thinking about going with both the Caps and the Pens, and I didn't. And then instead of going with Pens, took the Caps. But it is what it is, and we still both have a decent shot of going far because the rest of our teams are still kind of doing well. So we'll see how it goes. What else do we have this episode? We will talk about our playoff second round matchups. The Team ISO. But first, trending now. Can Vegas win their first lottery? That would be so Vegas.
Vegas, baby, Vegas!
That it would be quite awesome to see.
Yeah. So basically, they are stuck with a 3rd place position of odds. Just like I believe it is the Coyotes, 10.3%. And of course, remember the Avs are in first. They have an 18%, and I think the Canucks are at the second best odds with 12.1%. And the lottery is this Saturday night, so stay tuned for that. That'll be kind of interesting. I know a lot of people aren't expecting any McDavids or Matthews out there, but there's a couple decent guys like who, Paul?
Nolan Patrick and Nico Hischier are going to be 1-2. They kind of go back and forth. A lot of people were going Nolan Patrick for the longest time, and then Nico Hischier had a pretty good year, pretty good World Juniors, pretty good under 18. Nolan Patrick's been kind of injury prone the past 2 years. He had a great 16-year-old season, so that's why everybody's got his stock so high. But I think Hischier's gonna be first overall. I think that's the way it's gonna go.
And who are the guys that are in that third or fourth spot, maybe?
Gabe Vilardi from Windsor Spitfires. You're going to see him in the Memorial Cup since they're hosting, so he's going to get a little bit more time after a big long rest. Casey Middlestat, Owen Tippett with the Mississauga Steelheads could be up there.
Nice.
As far as defensemen, Miro Heiskanen's stock has gone up. He's probably going to be the first defenseman off, him or Timothy Liljegren.
Yeah, has Liljegren's stock dropped a little bit? I'm hearing a lot of guys that are not even thinking of a high pick for him anymore.
Yeah, some guys are dropping him out of the top 10 pick. I think that's a little drastic. I think he's going to be... He'll be within the top 10. Defensemen are way too valuable at the top end of the draft.
I know about him. Go ahead.
I think Heiskanen is going to go before him. I think Heiskanen will be 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. Detroit might take him. Mm-hmm. So, Detroit, Dallas might take more defensemen. They shouldn't because they need some forwards, but maybe Buffalo take a defenseman. So it all depends on where the teams fall, and after Saturday we're going to know where teams are falling. So it'll be a little bit easier to put guys in spots. A little bit further down the round, Nick Suzuki from Owen Sound is still playing OHL hockey.
Any relation to David?
I don't know.
No, that would be amazing.
A guy that is related to a pretty famous hockey player, Kalen Foote. Or Callan Foote, Adam's son.
Nice.
A guy that's stock has gone way up from the under 18s, Christian Vesalainen.
Oh! Sorry, Paul. As you're saying this, we're recording this on Thursday night, of course. And Paul's team just scored. Bonino!
How perfect is that? 3-2.
It's 3-2 currently for the Penguins with 7.5 remaining. All right. Sorry, Paul, to cut you off on about that. Let's get into further in what else is trending now. As I was thinking about the other day when watching the Blue Jays, because what am I supposed to do with 2 days off, Paul? So I watched some Blue Jays. And on Tuesday night, they're playing St. Louis. And I'm thinking the Blue Jays are probably going to go and watch some Predators hockey, I would think. Some Canadian guys maybe on the team like Russell Martin. And exactly that's what happens. And also because the Blue Jays game was rain delayed on Wednesday night, so they obviously got PK Subban. And we will put all this on our game notes. I think PK Subban took a picture with a few of them, like Russell Martin. I think Ezekiel Carrera was there, Batista was there, and a few other guys. I think Saltalamacchia. The list goes on. And then, of course, because the game was rain delayed, the Jays had a postponed game, and they had 2 games on Thursday, one at 1 p.m. today. And, of course, Subban and a couple of Preds were at the game. So what happens, of course, Russell Martin knocks one out of the park. He goes back after his turn, and he does a little point at PK, who's in the crowd. And PK gives a huge jump and a laugh and stuff. That was hilarious. So we will put that on game notes. It was hilarious.
What I want to know is how those guys get those tickets so easily. Like, they are like right beside the dugout. How does PK Subban have those hookups?
Oh man, I was thinking about that myself. I think it's a lot of it's players have connections with the owners, and I think it was maybe like the owner's box / management's box in that area, especially. Even with the Predators game and the Blue Jays getting it, I think it's the players have a lot of tickets, even for playoffs, and it's kind of annoying. but I think they also deserve it, right? So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And I just don't get how like it do they have them reserved and then they give them out last minute to the like company or like
I think it's
do they sit empty if the players don't want to go? Like what happens if the Predators were like, no, we just played a game, we're not going? Like that's ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure it's those are management's tickets no matter what, and a lot of these teams have, especially in baseball, those ones that are kind of close to the dugout and everything, but they release it to the public if they don't end up using, which they usually do. It's the owners, it's the management, it's their tickets, and they usually do use them, but sometimes they don't, and then you will find some crazy tickets that are released like the day of for those teams in those games. So I think that'd
be sweet
yeah.
to get those hookups.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think it's that, especially like it's the St. Louis Cardinals. So this is a team that pretty much sells out most of their games or most of their tickets. So those are tickets that are usually would be scooped up easily. But yeah, like a lot of these teams, almost any sports team, they have management tickets. And for baseball, it seems like they're usually in that area for management. So what else? The Fiala thing. I don't know what to say. Go ahead, Paul.
We kind of said it was kind of compared to the McDavid and Manning incident where McDavid got hurt in behind the net in Philadelphia. I can't fault Bortuzzo for this. I just can't. I think it was just bad luck, bad situation. Bortuzzo's got to play his man hard, and Fiala kind of loses an edge or gets wobbly, and I think Bortuzzo would get reamed out on the bench if he went back to the bench and didn't play Fiala as hard as he did. What I did watch after a couple more times, like I didn't watch the injury because it was kind of
the extra shoves
afterwards. Yeah. But again, like, did Bortuzzo even know that he was that hurt? Like, it didn't look. I don't think he knew it was that bad.
Yeah,
and like his stick was under Fiala, so he must have thought Fiala was holding his stick or something, and that happens. They give an extra couple cross checks and jabs, but I think because of the injury, it makes Bortuzzo look much worse. If Fiala got up and skated away, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah. The only questions I had with it, and you know me, I love hitting and everything. He went after him. He didn't do the cut-off play, and I can't blame Bortuzzo because he doesn't know that Fiala is going to do a bit of a speed wobble there. He's just going in for the hit. But at the same time, it's got to be more of a cut-up because he's going so fast. The players have to know that he's not going to be protected as easily, so maybe he shouldn't be going that fast. I always say the same thing when players are going super fast towards the goalie. What did you expect? Did you not expect a defenseman to impede you a little bit at least, and then you go into the goaltender? Of course, so you should angle towards away from the goaltender. I guess you could say the same thing for Fiala a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't be going super fast in the direction right towards the boards. But again, that's what I'm thinking. Bortuzzo should be thinking that he's going to try to cut in. So you have to try to do more of a cut-off hit. Where you're angling the hit in case he tries to cut in. And he didn't. Because of the speed wobble, he went straight into the boards. And Bortuzzo went right after him. So that I kind of didn't like. But as well, kind of when you think about a high stick, nobody intends to clip a guy in the face. But they do. So you give them a penalty. Kind of maybe the same thing here. So I wouldn't have mind just a 2-minute penalty. That's all. I was maybe expecting that, but nothing more for sure. Not his fault. Yeah.
And the impact of Fiala being out, he's definitely a scoring contributor on that Nashville team. So he's out for the rest of the season. He had surgery on a broken left femur, which he might be out a long time with a broken femur.
That he might not even be ready to probably start the season next year. So it's a tough loss for Predators, and hopefully they can find some more offense down the lineup. The other thing I want to talk about is the Sabres calling on Chayka. Or is it Chayka?
Chaika, I think.
Chaika. I'm having problems with his name a little bit.
Arizona
Chaika.
GM.
Yes, the Coyotes GM. And of course, they're saying no, you can't talk to him. But, like, what are these teams thinking? You can just contact anybody who's still currently the general manager of another team? You think, oh, it's only the Arizona Coyotes. They don't even know what they're doing with their management and ownership, so we should just be able to call this guy. No! You can't! He's under contract! Like, I don't understand the thinking that goes behind this. It bothers me even more because I'm a Blue Jays fan, and that pretty much exactly happened, and even worse, with John Farrell when he was the skip of the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox when they wanted a manager. And, of course, we do know the history of Farrell being in the Boston Red Sox organization, paying his dues to become the manager. They weren't ready, but the Blue Jays went and they got him. So he's their manager. You cannot just nonchalantly just go, yeah, we're going to call this guy. He's going to be our GM, our manager. And the fans are like, yeah, he's going to be our man. Like, that's just not right. I don't know. This just seems so wrong.
But then on the business side, you're allowed to contact employees of companies and poach them, as they would call it. And it happens often. I'm a huge F1 fan, and it happens so often that they steal guys from other manufacturing teams, like the engineers. The drivers have contracts, and it's all about money. Just pay out the contract, pay the right amount of money to the guy that had the contract that you're stealing them from, and anybody's available. So in that sense, I'm all right with them trying to poach GMs. Like, he's done a pretty decent job with Arizona, and maybe Buffalo wants him to do the same in Buffalo. But I kind of like it. I kind of like that they're trying to poach from other teams.
The good sign is they're not doing the roulette wheel with the old school guys. It seems like
Dean Lombardi they have not called, which is another thing that the Kings have to grant permission for people to talk to Dean Lombardi.
Yeah, because he's still technically under contract, I guess. So,
but they don't want him working, so they basically can handcuff him. Like,
yeah, that's not fair. Yeah.
No, they handcuff Dean Lombardi. Can't work right now. Like, I'm sure he doesn't care to work, but maybe he does. Like, it's not the money that he cares about. It's being in an executive office, right? So, I don't know. I think it's kind of iffy that they're allowed to grant permission to people that they're not even their GM anymore. Yeah. So I think it should just be open. You can poach from anybody.
All right, time for this week's segment of Team ISO. This week we are Team ISOing the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, it's where we specifically talk about more detail about one specific team. Last year, you got our analysis, Paul and mine. This year, we're going for a better perspective out there in the blogospheres. And this week's Team ISO guest is Keith Schultz. You can find him on Twitter at Oakforest72. That's OAKFOREST72. And Keith, you're a writer at blackhawksup.com, and that's, of course, a fan-sided, right?
Yep.
So before we get a little bit into it, you were telling me before we got ready, so you're a Hawks fan, and you currently live where?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, Tennessee. So did you get tickets to go to any of the games for the playoffs?
I got to see beautiful Game 4, which was not very fun.
Oh, that's too bad. And did you go with anyone?
Yeah, I went with my 18-year-old son. It was a pretty fun trip. Good road trip with him, except for the outcome of the game.
Oh, yeah, of course, the loss. And how was the atmosphere?
Actually, I've been to like 3 games there in Nashville. Mm-hmm. The regular season game is mostly Blackhawks fans, but the 2 playoff games that I've been to has barely been any Hawks fans. Their Keep the Red Out program's pretty good for the playoffs, so it was I mean, it was a good atmosphere. It was loud, but that's all I can say.
Yeah. All right, we won't get too much into it. But the Blackhawks, of course, very unpredictable what happened to them. Not only did they lose in the first round, a top seed, the best in the Western Conference versus the final team who made the playoffs, the second wildcard team, of course, old school wise, the 8th seed. They got beat by them. Not only did they get beat by the Predators, they got swept in 4 games and only 3 goals total in the 4 games. The last time this happened was, I believe, in 1993, when again it was the Hawks, the number 1 seed. They got beat by the St. Louis Blues. And what happened then? Belfour, of course, famously went on a huge rampage and destroyed the locker room, the hot tub, the coffee maker, the television, everything in the locker room. So, which member of the Hawks team destroyed the locker room this year?
I don't think any of them did. They didn't look like they had much passion, unlike Belfour did back then and back in the day. That's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Not enough passion from these Hawks. That's from almost the beginning of the playoffs. Where's the passion on this team? Is it because they've had so many championships, they've gone in the long runs, they know what it takes to win a championship, and now that's taken their toll, and it also has made less of a passion to go out and tough it out and go for the long haul to try to win it all?
I thought it was interesting that after the series, Patrick Kane said that they won so many close games late that they had like a sense of security that they always would be able to do that. And Nashville never let up. They in every game they came back, even Game 3 when the Hawks were winning. They never quit. And I think the Blackhawks just thought they would just show up and win the first round, being the number 1 seed, and that obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. That could be it, because Patrick Kane, Magic, Showtime Patrick Kane, is so expected to come out and score a last-minute goal almost every time. Is it that's what they're accustomed to, I guess, right?
Yeah, they won a bunch of games. I don't have the stat in front of me, but they won at least 20 games or tied 20 games in the last 3 minutes of the third period, which is a pretty crazy stat when you think about it. And you just can't depend on that come the playoffs, because defenses are playing harder and you're not playing teams on the back end of back-to-backs and stuff like that. So I just think they had some security blanket there that they thought they were going to end up winning all these games, and they just didn't.
Yeah. It also seemed like they felt they had the team to win it all, and they didn't necessarily really even try to go out and even add a piece for the playoffs either.
I mean, their one big addition was Johnny Oduya, and he really wasn't the Johnny Oduya from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I think to be honest with you, the biggest thing was the injury to Anisimov.
Yeah.
He just wasn't the same player
coming back
in the playoffs. He won like 12% of his face-offs, and his timing in Game 1, he had 3 really good chances in Game 1 to tie it up, and his timing just wasn't there. And you could tell that injury hurt them a lot more than people thought going into the playoffs.
Yeah, similar maybe to San Jose's big guns as well.
Yeah.
What do you see of maybe changes happening maybe in the offseason? Do you see anything there?
Well, I mean, you're going to lose someone in the expansion draft. Whether it's Marcus Kruger or TVR, those are the 2 people target that most people think will be gone. The Blackhawks have to get younger on the blue line, though. I mean, you have Duncan Keith, but Brent Seabrook's starting to look, a step slower. Johnny Oduya didn't look like the Johnny Oduya from 2 years ago when they picked him up. And they just need to be – they have young players, and it's just, is Joel Quenneville going to ever trust them guys? He trusted the young forwards this year, and another key to the loss was those young kids didn't really step up when the playoffs started. They kind of hit that rookie wall at the wrong time. Yeah,
and are you expecting anything big from some of those guys in the back end, like a Kempny or Forsling?
I think they have potential to be. They might not be your number 1 shutdown guys, but second and third pairing guys. I think they have all the ability to step up into those roles next year.
Yeah, I do think that they do have the prospects to do it, like Michael Kempny. Gustav Forsling could definitely step in. But how excited are you for Alex DeBrincat?
That's the person I'm excited about. If you listen to Stan Bowman's remarks after the playoffs, he's like, we lack offense, which is something they really didn't lack during the season until the playoffs. But, that guy just scores. He's a sniper. He's a goal scorer. And, I don't care if he's 5'1", that guy can score. And at the OHL level like that, he should be able to bring that to the NHL.
Yeah, you're not concerned at all about his amateur game being too small of a guy to make it into the NHL?
Number 88's a pretty small guy, and he's done pretty good there in 10 years in Chicago. So I think he would be fine on one of those scoring roles in Chicago next year.
Yeah. How about Tyler Mott and Nick Schmaltz? What do you think of their prospects of being on the team next year, full time?
I really liked Tyler Mott at the beginning of the year, and then he suffered an injury and he kind of lost his confidence. He seemed to get his confidence in his scoring back in Rockford. So I like his 200-foot game. I don't think he's going to be a massive scorer, but I think, for one of those guys that can play 200 feet on your bottom six forwards, I think he could be a really good long-term guy in Chicago. Schmaltz has all the talent in the world. He showed some serious flashes in the regular season, especially in the month of February and March when he was with the top line with Taves and Panic. He really showed that he's got some top line ability. He definitely didn't bring it in the playoffs. He shrunk and kind of got nervous or whatever happened. So, hopefully he got these 4 games behind him, and next season will be a different story when the second season starts.
Yeah, do you think the moving out Quenneville as coach might bring up these prospects a little quicker? Because he really doesn't like to play young rookies or second-year guys very much. But do you think that would be an option for the Blackhawks? Because they're saying there's going to be change this offseason, but is the coach at all liable for that?
According to Quenneville, according to Bowman, that's not happening. That Quenneville's his man, although they fired his best buddy, Mike Kitchen, the assistant coach, and they fired the AHL coach, Ted Dent, this week. Yep. I don't think Quenneville's going anywhere. And, to be honest, this year he had to play a lot of kids, and they got a lot of minutes. So just his trust in the defensive guys kind of concerned me. Like, he just all those other guys more than Kempny and Forsling, which is the guys I really wanted to see playing more and getting that confidence before the playoffs started. But next year I don't think he's going to have an option.
All right. And last but not least, is Hossa maybe it's time for him to retire, or what's going on with Marion? He didn't look very good in the playoffs as well either.
No, he looked good during the regular season.
Yeah, he did.
He scored, I think, 26 goals.
Yeah. I thought
he looked pretty good. He doesn't have those shifts like he used to where he dominated the puck the entire time. Mm-hmm. But he still is strong on the puck. And I'm not a salary cap expert, but I know, if he doesn't play out his contract, they're in a lot of trouble with the recapture of the salary cap and stuff. So I don't expect this. I expect Hossa in the lineup for the next couple of years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be odd now with, I guess, still 4 more years remaining on his contract, but each year is only paying him out at $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million.
So I don't know how that's going to work out with him wanting to stay or keep playing and only being, accepting $1 million per year. So that's the question mark I was thinking about more than what he's got left in the tank. Good luck to.
I understand that point, but I think Blackhawks are definitely going to want him, in the lineup. That's for sure.
Yeah. Toast is fabulous. All right. Well, we'll see what happens to the Hawks. It's going to be an interesting off season, and maybe DeBrincat can maybe come in next year and give him some offense. We'll see about that. Thanks for coming on the show, Keith.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And again, you can find Keith on Twitter, OakForest72, and we will tweet that out and everything. Again, thanks for coming on the show.
Yep, and you can also find us at Blackhawk_up on Twitter also.
Perfect. We'll tweet that out on Jablem Hockey as well on Twitter.
Appreciate it.
Second round matchup time. All right, we already dropped our blog and our predictions for the second round, and now let's get a little bit more into detail and talk about it. And after we talked about each series, we will also name our top MVPs of the first round in the playoffs so far. All right, series-wise, Ducks versus the Oilers. What are you expecting out of this series, Paul?
I think it's going to be an easy Oilers win.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they're just playing outstanding hockey right now. Cam Talbot is like he's the man that stirs the Oilers wins. If he's on, he's on, and they're going to win. And if he's off, then they don't stand a chance. But I think their defense has gotten a whole lot better, which makes Cam Talbot much better. And they've been doing it without McDavid being spectacular. So I think McDavid's going to find another gear. The only thing I think Ryan Kessler can shut him down. He's played the most 5-on-5 minutes against Connor McDavid. Ryan Kessler has. So if he can single-handedly shut down Connor McDavid, the Oilers might have a tough time, but I think McDavid's going to find another level. He has another level to his game, and he's going to find it in this series.
Yeah, I was even mentioning, I think, in my blog too. I think it's almost like a toss-up in this series, but I'm giving the slight edge to the Oilers. It's kind of odd because the Oilers are supposed to be the young, fast team, and the Ducks are supposed to be the veteran kind of physical team. But the players that did really well for the Oilers, especially in the first round, and which helped them win the series, were those physical guys like Kazian. And then the Ducks, it was their faster, younger guys like Theodore and Raquel who helped them win the first round. But yeah, the Oilers are looking pretty good, and I had a good feeling that they might do fairly well this year and go fairly far. But yeah, they just got a lot of weapons now. I'm still shocked that it seems like a lot of fans aren't giving a lot of credit to Chiarelli, but he's really added all the right pieces around the whole team. Not just Larson, who's looked solid all year and even stepped up even in the first game in the series, but all the other pieces, and in defense, guys are stepping up, but all the physical guys on the forwards. So yeah, they've just got a lot of weapons even outside of McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, so you're taking the Oilers in
7. Yeah,
nice. I got them in 5.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, we're both going Oilers. The other series in the same conference is the Blues and the Predators. Nashville just looked so sharp in the first round versus the Hawks, and I'm just going on pretty much that. We expected the Predators to actually be even higher than where they ended up as a wild card team. But they've stepped it up, and again, with Rene playing so amazing in the first round. And if he continues that way, the rest of their team is good. They've got depth now for scoring by adding guys like Johansson in there, and their defense has always been good. And they're even more mobile now with Subban in there.
I think this is round 2's goaltending duel. We had Carey Price and Lundqvist in the first round. It was an exciting duel. Lundqvist came out on top. I think this is the next round duel. Rene versus Allen, and I think Rene is going to take the duel big time.
Yeah. We've seen how shaky Allen can be, and he was unpredictably amazing too in the first round, which got them to beat the Wild fairly easily. I would surprisingly say. I thought that series was going to go maybe a little bit longer. But go ahead.
And where's Vladimir Tarasenko? Where's he been first round?
Well, I think a lot of guys are covering him, and I don't know. He might look kind of banged up. I even saw in the first game, one guy barely even touched him, and he was bent over for a long time.
Yeah,
so
I
don't know.
see that. I forget who hit him, but yeah, I did see that, and he Yeah, he looked like he grimaced a little more than what you normally would on that kind of contact. So, yeah, he might be battling something.
Yeah, I think it was Watson. And, yeah, it was just very odd. And even earlier in the game, I noticed him kind of not go 100%. So, yeah, that's not a good sign for the Blues. But at least, some other guys have stepped up, like Schwartz really has. So, but they're going to need more, especially if Tarasenko is not doing well. I think I picked the Preds in 6, and you, Paul?
I also picked him in 6.
All right. Then we go to the East. The Ottawa Senators versus the Rangers. These are the two teams that we didn't expect to win in the first round, I think. So, it's an interesting one. The Rangers have been there, done that. So I don't know how much they have left in the tank to go for another deep run. But I think they do, especially Lundqvist. He was spectacular in the first round. If he continues, I don't think the Sens can do too much.
Yeah, he's going to have to carry the Rangers to the Stanley Cup. If he wants to win a Stanley Cup, he cannot rely on his team. He's got to be the backbone, and I think he has it in him, but he might just wear out. He might get tired. And at the beginning of the playoffs, I remember people were saying Antti Ranta was the better of the two goalies still going into the playoffs, and I think that might have ticked the king off a little bit, and he's saying, no, this is my crease. I want to talk about this Derek Brassard and Mika Zibanejad trade that no one really has talked about from the offseason. It's all been the Subban, Weaver, Hall, Larson, but I think these two are going to go head-to-head both in the face-off dot and everywhere on the ice. It should be interesting. Derek Brassard was a beast in the first round.
Yeah, he sure was. So it's going to be interesting. And I still think Zibanejad actually played fairly good in the first round as well. But with Carey Price in that, the goals were few and far between there. But yeah, the Rangers, they just don't have enough explosive offense. All their guys are, middle of the pack kind of scorers. There's no big guy that you can put everything on. Rick Nash isn't that dynamic super power forward that he used to be. He's still a great player, but he's not going to score in bunches anymore. So yeah, it's going to be tough. And I think maybe the Rangers have enough on defense, and with Lundqvist, they can pull out the series, but I think it's going to go pretty far. I've got the Rangers in 6. You, Paul?
Oh, this is where we're different. I'm going the Senators in 6.
All right, so we'll see what happens there. And then last but not least, of course, the two powerhouse teams, the Washington Capitals versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Paul? It
really is disappointing that this is the semifinal Eastern Conference. This could be for the Stanley Cup. These two teams, if you went with the two best teams in the regular season, it would be these two teams. And it's kind of disappointing that it's going to be a semifinal, and one of these teams is going home, and they're going to go up against Ottawa and New York, which isn't really that. This is going to be much more exciting than the next round, no matter what happens in the Eastern Conference, I think.
This is going to be an explosive series. Lots of goals. So if you want to see goals, watch this series, in my opinion. But also, the question here is, if these two teams go toe-to-toe, how many guys will have a lot left in the tank to go against the Senators or the Rangers? I think that might hurt them a little bit, especially if they can get a bit more of that rivalry going up and a little bit more hatred. If that happens, though, then it could be a very long series and a very, not just offensive series, but a very even physical one.
Yeah, they never get really too physical. Like, they kind of get into scrums and kind of get fights, but nothing. There's no real headhunters or anything. Maybe Tom Wilson, but I feel like the Penguins don't have that in their game, that they're in scrums and they look for that kind of stuff. They play more of a speed game, so I think they can skirt by the Capitals without too much damage.
Yeah, that sucks, because it would have been so good if James Neal was still there from 4 years ago. That would have been so great.
Oh, jeez.
All right. But I've got the series going the limit and with the slight edge for the Penguins. So Penguins in 7.
I'm going Penguins in 5. I'm very confident in my Penguins.
So Paul's got them in 5. That's pretty short series. And then we go into our picks for MVP of the first round so far. Paul, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Henrik Lundqvist.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely was the most valuable player for his team, and he deserves a nod for a nomination of MVP so far.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the same as mine. I also have Henrik as the 3rd because he won that series for them versus the Canadiens. And then my number 2 is Erik Karlsson. That guy is so dynamic, and I don't think he gets enough credit about his defense just because he's so great offensively talented and his long stretch passes and his vision, but he's also good on his own, and because he can easily steal the puck off a player or he's in the right position to still get back into defensive form and take the puck back. So he's my number 2. Yours, Paul?
Pekka Rinne is my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Under a goal per game, goals against, is incredible in the first round. 3 goals in 4 games he's given up. He just dominated the Blackhawks. Yeah, the Blackhawks didn't really show up like we talked about with Keith, but the Pekka Rinne is carrying that team big time. Like they're not a high scoring team, and they don't really need to be with Rinne playing the way he is.
Yeah. That's right, and that was my number 1 pick.
Nice.
Is Pekka Rinne. Yeah, he was too amazing and just above and beyond the best player in that series. So and so far in the playoffs. And your number 1, Paul?
Jake Guentzel leading the playoffs in scoring as a rookie is pretty impressive.
Yeah. It was tough for me and I wanted to put Guentzel in one of these spots, but I couldn't because there's so many other good weapons on the Penguins. He wasn't above and beyond. And you know me. I need my MVP to be a standout on a team. And there's too many guys that were MVP. Like Malkin, was he not as good as Guentzel?
He had a pretty good first round. And they scored a lot. They're the top scoring team in the first round, so yeah, it kind of makes sense that they got a bunch of guys at the top of the top 5-10 list of scoring.
But for sure, Guentzel was a great player, and for that first round. So we'll see if he can, and the rest of these guys can keep it going to try to stave off somebody else getting into an MVP nod. And that's it for this episode. Check out next episode next week, and we'll have more playoff talk and maybe a compare on who's doing better so far in this Penguins Capitals series, Ovechkin or Crosby. And again, remember, go to jablamhockey.com. I've got my new blog the day after. We have our more talk and analysis on these second round matchups in our blog section as well. Check out our games notes. You'll see all the cool stuff that we talked about in Trending Now. And always go on iTunes. Please subscribe, rate, and review us. See you next time.
Bye.